I am starting to have a pet peeve, and that pet peeve is expensive table saw accessories. I am seeing more and more table saw accessories on Amazon and other places that are like 30, 40, 50, 60 bucks, like a featherboard. A featherboard is something that you need for your table saw, and it helps keep your stock pressed up against the fence. It helps with kickbacks and all that. And those things are selling for like 30, 40, 50 bucks, even 60. And it's something you can make with just scrap wood laying around, and you really shouldn't buy one. They're so simple to make, and you don't want to damage a $30 piece of plastic when you could have spent that $30 on some really nice wood for a project or whatever. So in this video, I'm going to show you how simple it is to make a featherboard. This is the wood that I'm going to use for the featherboard. It's poplar. You really kind of want to use like an oak, poplar, some sort of hardwood, nice and straight. Maybe sometimes like a pine can work, but hardwood's a little bit more durable, and this is what I'm going to use. The first thing you need to do is, once you get a piece of wood that's about 3 to 4 inches wide, is to cut it to length. I'm going to cut mine to about 16 inches long, and I'm going to cut one end at a 90-degree angle, and I'm going to cut the other end at a 30-degree angle. The 30-degree angled end is for the featherboards, because the featherboards are kind of angled towards the fence to allow wood to go one way and not to kick back, and also to allow a little springiness to push the board into the fence. So I'm going to cut one end with the 30 and the other end with the 90. Now you need to make a pencil mark on the piece of wood that you just cut. And you want it to be about 3 inches in about here. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just to where you stop the saw blade. So after you mark the wood for the length of the fingers, you need to figure out where you are on the table saw to start and how far to move the fence in order to make equally spaced fingers. Now, my blade is about an 1/8 inch wide, a little less, and I want fingers that are a little bit more than an 1/8 inch. So I think I'm going to move the fence 1/4 of an inch each time I make an individual cut with the finger. And that should give me equally spaced fingers, and they should be flexible enough to allow for a good featherboard. This is the only time I'll ever crank the blade up way far above the surface of the wood. Normally you just want it, a 1/4 of an inch over the wood that you're cutting for safety's sake. However, in this case, I don't want a shallow cut, like a real angular cut. I want that blade up as far as possible so it cuts more of an up and down cut. Just for strength of the featherboard and for it to help it a little bit better. So that I'm going to crank the blade up a little bit. So now you cut out each one of the feathers individually, moving the fence that away 1/4 of an inch, and you should have a perfect finger every time. We'll cut them out. Now when you get to the end, you're going to want to rip the featherboard to size, final size, and get the last feather the certain width. So I've moved the blade over to make the next cut, but I'm going to crank it down back to where it's safer, and I'm just going to feed it all the way through. So there you go. It's very easy to make a table saw featherboard, and you do not need to go out and spend a lot of money on one of these things. You can either take a C-clamp or some sort of clamp and clamp it down to your table saw top, or you can spend a little bit of time and make a miter saw T-slot for it. I've seen those are great, but I just usually just clamp them down to my tabletop. I spend my time on making other things, and it's very easy to make these. You don't need to spend money on them. So if you like this video, please like or subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.